I was standing in my driveway, sipping lukewarm coffee, still in my black robe. Not a bathrobe, mind you, a federal judge's robe, when she came marching toward me like a suburban storm cloud. Her name was Becky Caldwell, president of the Sunny Grove Meadows HOA. Clipboard in one hand, righteous fury in the other. She didn't even say hello. "You think you're some kind of lawyer because you know how to Google statutes?" she barked, jabbing her finger into my chest like she was pressing an elevator button. "You're a wannabe legal know-it-all, and I'm putting a lien on your house today." I didn't flinch. I just stood there. Her eyes drifted down. Saw the gold badge hanging from my neck. And then the robe. The real kind. And right there, mid-sentence, her face drained of color like a glitching filter. Let's back up. This didn't start with a finger in my chest. It started with pie. When I first moved to Sunny Grove Meadows, this picturesque neighborhood with white picket fences and welcome signs, my only goal was peace. After 25 years on the federal bench, presiding over high-stakes fraud and racketeering cases, I wanted quiet. I still handled a few cases, but mostly, I wanted to garden and be left alone. The neighbors were warm. Linda from next door brought me apple pie. Frank across the street invited me to a cookout. No one asked what I did for a living, and I didn't offer. I liked the anonymity. Then came my first HOA meeting. It was held in the clubhouse on a rainy Tuesday, but the tension inside was heavier than the thunder outside. Folks exchanged nervous glances. Every time someone asked a question, Becky, our newly elected HOA president, would cut them off with lines like, "That's already been reviewed," or "It's not up for debate." Becky had the charm of a DMV line and the power complex of a Bond villain. She wore her authority like it was Prada, and weaponized it like pepper spray. The next day, Frank stopped me by the mailbox. "Sorry about the meeting," he mumbled. "Things haven't been the same since she took over." He handed me a notice. He'd been fined $1,150 for unapproved holiday decor. You know what that decor was? American flags. For Memorial Day. "Can they even do this?" he asked, eyes tired. I took a look at the HOA bylaws. Not only was it an overreach, it was illegal under state law. So I drafted him a simple appeal. 2 days later, Frank showed up grinning like a lottery winner. "They dropped the fine," he said. "Whatever you wrote worked like magic." I just smiled. I dabble in paperwork. That was the first crack in Becky's porcelain rule. Weeks later, every household got a letter. $9,200 per home for emergency drainage improvements and infrastructure reinforcement. The language was vague, the timeline non-existent, and it smelled fishier than a sushi truck in July. At the emergency HOA meeting, Becky treated questions like personal attacks. When I asked to see the engineering report justifying the costs, she rolled her eyes. "You wouldn't understand. The technical stuff is for qualified parties only." Oh, honey, I've sentenced people for inventing fake engineering firms. I know a scam when I see one. So I did some digging. Found that the only contractor authorized for the repairs was a company called Meadowline Services, LLC, created 3 months ago. Registered to her brother-in-law, Marcus Caldwell, a guy who used to run a vape shop. I shared the info with Tom, a retired accountant who had served on the HOA board before Becky took over. "Not surprised," he said. "She shut down all transparency, started fining anyone who disagreed. Last month, she fined me for my mailbox being too symmetrical." I started gathering more. Turns out, Becky had gone by a different last name years ago and had been treasurer at another HOA 2 towns over, where $300,000 mysteriously vanished. No charges, just a quiet resignation. It was time to fight back, but smartly, quietly. I reached out to neighbors I could trust. We formed a coalition. Each person took a piece of the puzzle: finance, legal, documents, surveillance. That's when the real harassment started. I got fined for landscape violations, plants that were approved when I bought the house. Then for my garbage bins. Then for my garden hose being the wrong shade of green. They were watching my house. I caught them on camera, board members crouching in bushes, taking photos of my lawn with rulers at dawn. Mrs. Patterson, a widow in her 70s, got fined for a wheelchair ramp for her husband. The Rodriguezes got violations for a basketball hoop their kids had used for years. Becky was running this HOA like a dictatorship in a gated paradise. So we gathered proof. Linda, who worked at the bank, found $175,000 withdrawn from HOA reserves in cash, all with Becky's signature. Tom dug through the budget, discovered inflated charges on maintenance contracts, 30 to 40% over market rates. One night, Mrs. Patterson called me in tears. Becky and Marcus were building a chain-link fence across her garden, claiming she was encroaching on common property. I drove over. Becky tried waving off my questions until I pulled out the county survey map. "You're wrong," she snapped. "Actually," I said, unfolding the document, "this shows Mrs. Patterson's property extends another 12 feet, and there are no updated surveys filed in over a decade." She backed down. For the first time, her voice cracked. She knew we had her. By then, our coalition had grown to 35 households, nearly half the neighborhood. We compiled a 40-page legal brief citing bylaw violations, financial misappropriation, and selective enforcement. Sent it certified mail to every board member. Becky's response? She called it procedurally invalid. Denied the hearing. But that's what I was counting on. Under state law, that refusal gave us legal grounds to escalate. I filed a formal complaint with the State Housing Authority and the District Attorney's Office. And then came that morning. The HOA hearing was at 11 a.m. I had a real court session at 9 a.m. So I dressed in my robe, grabbed my briefcase, and was about to leave when, ding, 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 Becky, at my door, pounding the bell like she was swatting flies. "You think you're smart?" she hissed. "Well, we're foreclosing on your house today. I'll make an example out of you." And that's when she saw the robe, the badge, the courtroom calm in my face. I introduced myself, formally this time. Her jaw dropped. One board member muttered, "Oh, no." Becky tried to spin it. "This is intimidation." "No," I said. "Intimidation is threatening foreclosure with no legal grounds. This is accountability." At the hearing, the community center was packed. Frank presented the spreadsheet. Every violation matched to residents who had challenged Becky. Tom displayed invoices showing over $400,000 funneled to Marcus's fake company. I presented legal evidence, including Becky's HOA history and falsified documents. And the cherry on top? Security footage of Becky and Marcus shredding documents in the HOA office at midnight. When confronted, Becky broke. She admitted it all. Fraud, embezzlement, kickbacks. Said she meant to pay it back. 2 plainclothes detectives were waiting outside. "Becky Caldwell," one said. "We need to talk." As they walked her out in cuffs, she avoided eye contact. The woman who wanted to make an example of me became one herself. In the months that followed, Sunny Grove Meadows changed. Frank became HOA president. Linda, treasurer. We voted on new bylaws, transparency, term limits, recorded meetings, and financial audits. The fraudulent $9,200 assessment. Cancelled. Every penny returned. Mrs. Patterson got her garden back. The Rodriguezes, their hoop. And me? Well, I got my roses trimmed. The same ones Becky once fined me for. 1 year later, we held a block party. Potluck tables, music, kids running free. Someone asked why I didn't reveal I was a judge sooner. Because it wasn't about me, I said. It was about all of us. Corruption survives on fear and silence. But when neighbors stop whispering and start standing together, that's when justice blooms. So, what about you? Have you ever faced an HOA nightmare or stood up to a neighborhood tyrant? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Because in this neighborhood, the good guys win. Eventually.